Which departments do you think should be thinking about CX when it comes to financial services or banking?
I think CX needs to be really part of the DNA of the organization. I think their mission, vision, values ought to connect and have the customer at the center. I also think one place where CX is missed is you have to include the employee experience with the customer experience because you're creating incredible customer experiences specifically by ensuring that the employee experience is top notch. That's a beautiful place that comes together where we say we enable our frontline and all of the employees at our organization to be customer centric by making the processes where they engage with customers efficient and top notch. So I think those two things go hand in hand. Plus, it reduces turnover, et cetera. I think, though, if you had to kind of say, I've got a limited amount of money and I've got to come in and say, here's where we are. I think you have to start to look at the reality that certain transactions and interactions are far more emotional for customers than others. For example, fraud. If you're looking in your checking account and you see a bunch of transactions, that true example, my wife gets a call from the bank that asked about a transaction. She had just gone to a gas station. She used her debit card. 30 minutes later, she gets this call, identified. It comes across in her phone as Truist. She starts having this conversation, going back. He's checking, he's asking different questions, and everything sounds good. Supposedly the card's blocked. And the next morning, there was about $11,000 in transactions that had run that night that were fraudulent. So there's a moment of truth. When you have an emotional event and you call your bank, there's two things that need to happen. One, they need to answer pretty quickly. Two, they need to have a very clear process to help you through it, to calm you down, to make sure hey, we're good, we're going to do this, here's what we're going to do. So I think fraud is a great example of where banks often miss the mark because what that means is they've got to have more people employed at any given time to reduce those handle times. They've got to be exceptional at looking at what does the journey need to look at. I'll give you an example. If you're walking around and you have a wallet, and in your wallet you've got a debit card, you have a personal credit card. Let's say you have a corporate credit card from your employer. So you've got those three things. Well, you lose your wallet. So you call your bank. Well, guess what? You're going to need to talk to somebody around the debit card in the deposit product area. You're going to have to talk to somebody who handles personal credit cards. You may have to talk to somebody different that handles corporate credit cards because oftentimes the servicing in a financial services institution are siloed by product because they're on different systems. And then you're going to have to talk to fraud, who's going to have to open a case to do the research on all of those things. You're going to have cards blocked, accounts blocked, cards reissued. We know what all those things are based on the systems, based on the processes. So if there is a customer journey that said, lost my wallet, and you've authenticated, I say, I know Dylan, I know all the accounts Dylan has. It's going to launch the customer journey that says, okay, here's the cards, it's lost. We look at a few transactions, you say, yep, I've got fraudulent transactions. So we mark those, we block the cards, we reissue the cards, and we basically say, okay, we're going to refund the money on the debit cards, the only one that looks like they're fraudulent activity. We've blocked your other two credit cards because they're on us. We're going to reissue the debit card, the credit, and both credit cards. We'll expedite those. You should have those in 3 to 5 business days. If you need a temporary card, you can go to a local branch. So all of a sudden you're like, I made one phone call. They've got all this laid out. I know exactly what's going to happen. I know the money is going to be deposited in my account within 3 business days. I know I'm going to have cards reissued. And suddenly this emotional moment is, I'm great. So there are other journeys you could come up with. Like, I'm moving. Okay, we're going to change your address. So you say, change my address, and you get somebody on the deposit account, they change your address. Well, you have an investment account, you have a credit card, you have all of a sudden it's like the system ought to be able to say, are you changing your account for all of your products? If the answer is yes, then I process that. And then you don't have to make multiple phone calls or talk to multiple places. All of that's kind of a pipe dream because a lot of companies don't do that yet.